listen.
All right,
Like,
so name, title, three, two, one, go.
my name is Lolo Wink, and this is The Creation. I am the music from 1,000 symphonies, the granddaughter of an estranged government trapper, the echo of the vibrato of a solo soprano, the progeny of artists and musicians, writers and poets. I am fresh snow mixed with sugar and milk to make ice cream, a sheet of corrugated metal roofing bent to make a sled, a paper airplane as a substitute for a container of milk, a bat woken from its slumbers in an old dark woodshed. I am the unpublished work sitting on the desk of a gifted writer, the smell of maturing pages of antique books, the haunting sound of Grieg coming from a back bedroom, the lingering hum of the vibrations of piano strings. I am the thorns of heirloom roses planted in the front yard, and cherries and figs and apples and plums, a dusty collection of classical records next to a turntable, a back office desk covered in papers illuminated by a single light. I am reverberations bouncing off the gilded archways in opera houses, the quiet thick of velvet theater drapes hanging in the proscenium, the sibilant whispers subdued by eavesdropping book spines in libraries, the brilliance of hand-painted masterpieces mounted in wide, bright galleries. I am the metallic taste of municipal water from a long green garden hose, the prickly stickers stuck in bare feet from drought-induced weeds, a rough rope swing with a wooden seat fixed to a branch in an elm tree, the soothing smell of blooming jasmine in the backyard on a warm night. I am 2 large stacks of waist-high books and several small piles of sentiments, the skips of a Sony Discman portable CD player attached to the hip, the disintegrating foam covers on metal headphones pinching greedy ears, the quiet solace, reflection, and hope found in the pages of liner notes. I am the blessings and curses passed down by family lineage, the questioning and rewriting of lessons previously taken at face value, the triumphant shattering of poisonous, perpetuated cycles, the creation of new framework from which better foundations are built. I am a sanctuary of tradition, the advocate for newly paved paths, the people and places that have formed me. I am all of these things, but most of all, I am my own.
Another episode of Kill the Poet. We got our friend Lolo Wink. Wink or Winks? Wink. Just one wink. All right, very nice. And we just heard her poem, The Creation. And one thing I would like to ask, I know you said this is an I am poem, and, it's affirmations, essentially. And I would think a lot of the things that you placed in that poem were snapshots of your background. Is that, like, too far off?
No.
Okay, no, okay.
I feel like that's an important question that you ask, because I think a lot of people assume that everything that poets write are autobiographical, and that's not fair. We have to give the poet room to explore, but you are correct. A lot of them are stories that I've been told, stories from, like, my father's life. It's kind of has a lot to do with my dad's side of the family, but also like childhood memories and just things that really did kind of help make me up as a human being.
So it's snapshots of people in, like, your life. It's not 100% like your life to, like, a T, right?
I would say, like, every line in that piece, like, it does draw from something that actually happened.
Yeah, got it.
Like the paper airplane as an exchange for milk, for example. Like, it's a story that was told to me. It actually comes from, very.
That's pretty cool. And, like, so you're taking snapshots of life, period, which one thing I love about poetry is, or just art in general, is what it ends up being by the time the final product comes about, is it being a mirror. You get to see either the writer's soul or just people's soul, and even if it's not yours, like whoever's listening to it can see into themselves, like relate with all of that stuff. And that's, I don't know, that's one thing I really liked about your poem. And I am poems when they're executed well, very like with accuracy. They tend to bring about that feeling.
Where were you at, like in life when you wrote that poem?
That's an interesting question. The thing about that piece is I had gone through a lot of, I would say, healing, as far as it sounds idealistic. The piece, like all these potentially beautiful memories and places, but it wasn't always like that. And the piece didn't start off that way, but I chose to focus on those beautiful pieces that I could really draw as much, like squeeze as much juice from. Like I really tried to get into some specific details and draw images that brought me joy and excited me. So I kind of kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it further and deeper as far as the memories went. So I feel like it came in a place where I was ready to accept the good with the bad. And I hope that as people listen to the piece or read the piece, that they find pieces that they can relate to. Like the Sony Discman is one that I feel like people who grew up in the same I did, like walking around with the skipping Discman, like can relate to, you know. So even though it comes from an autobiographical place, I hope that like people can relate to some of those sensory experiences.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that. You touched on all the senses and like deeply.
Yeah.
My thought is that when you were writing it, was it kind of like each piece was like a spur of the moment kind of thing that you just thought of this like memory or this moment and you just like jotted it down, or was it something that you like felt like you had to build?
It definitely needed to be built, and it started in certain places. Someone actually challenged me, like, I want to hear an I Am poem from you. And Christian Purpose, my homie, shouts out to him, Soul Stuff, shouts out. But he challenged me to this, and I didn't feel like I was ready to write that, because I was like, but who am I? So I kind of like wrestled with it a bit. But there are so many things that really helped me become who I am, both good and bad. And so just piecing those together was cathartic and kind of healing in and of itself, and really helped me paint a beautiful picture of some of the memories that I've had, and it was wonderful.
It was really cool with the like going off of that. Like I think you had a line in there about corrugulated. Help me out here. Corrugated. There you go. Roofs like turn into sleds. And I thought that was really cool, because it takes that image of like, homes with those sort of roofs, but it's like coming from a background where it's like you would take parts of those roofs or that material and like have fun with it as a child, or not. Like honestly, like at my big age, I would have a blast going down like, sleds with corrugated roofs, but that comes from a place of like, this is what we got, and this is what we're gonna have fun with, and I think that's really cool. The title, the creation, what motivated you to choose that title?
Kind of a couple different parts. One, it was like the piece itself, the act of creating it, but also it kind of was like a Frankenstein kind of approach where, I kind of, growing up, we all have, insecurities and the parts that make us up, they don't always feel like they fit sometimes, or we're placed into environments where we don't feel like we fit, and so you kind of get this like, like I'm a monster feeling, or like I don't fit in, but the beauty of it is like all those things that create you, whether you feel that they're positive or not, they still influence who we become, but we also have the opportunity to choose who we become despite all of it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thought behind it. It was the creation of the piece, but it was also the creation of myself.
Yeah.
But it also made me think of that, the monster as well.
I mean, like if Frankenstein's monster just wrote some poetry sometimes, like maybe he wouldn't be attacking the town, and maybe the town would be so mad. Hey, just like, hey, I have a piece for y'all. Wait, before I see the pitchforks, I see the torches, but let me get some
torches of
bars
fire.
off,
If I might circle back real quick to about the corrugated metal roofing. I do want to tell a little bit of a story behind that. Is
please.
As a kid, my dad used to tell me a story of him and his siblings who did grow up in Northern California and very impoverished. Not they lived in a converted chicken coop at one point.
Dang.
Yeah, 4 kids, and he used to tell me about the army blankets that they would just stack on the bed. But he would, him and his brother were on the top part of the house, and they had the corrugated metal roofing, but there was no insulation. So when it would snow, they would just pile up.
So they were north.
north, yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
way up there.
and so the snow would slide down the corrugated roof and block them in. They had to dig themselves out, but they would take the roofing and they created a sled and took their cat on a ride with them. I would say it's not more like Yuba County. I know it's northeastern. It's in the middle of nowhere, really, and
that
challenge.
Fairfield type beat.
Yeah, grass, little grass valley. So yeah, he grew up there, and interesting times. But he used to tell great stories about those times there. The bat in the woodshed is also one of those memories as well.
It's I imagine growing up as a kid, you go to school, you got your clothing, you got your backpack, you got all these other kids having completely different lives. And then, after the school bell rings, you go back home from this place that does not have a corrugated roof, that has central heating and everything like that. You can go back to a chicken coop, but you're a kid, so I think the coolest thing about children is they're gonna make it work. They're gonna make it work no matter what, because they don't know anything. It's hey, let's turn up right now, and it's having essentially sheet metal, to just you think we could slide down this? with this little thing, and it's, I don't know. As I was saying earlier, art has a way of taking snapshots in a way that cameras can't. You making something like that into art. You could take a picture. It's man, these are some kids having fun. But in this sort of framework, it's dang, these are kids having fun despite what's going on.
Let me ask you this too, based on what you're saying. Did you ever feel reserved in telling some of those stories in your art? Did you ever feel I can't say this, I'm gonna be judged, or people gonna look at me like that, or this or that? And if you did, how did you get past that?
I definitely started my journey as a writer. It's interesting, actually. There's this desire to release everything and get it on the page as a way of healing. But I feel you don't necessarily know that that's what it is at the time. There are stories that I knew I needed to share. I shared some lighthearted pieces with you, but there are some pieces that are extremely dark that I didn't know how to share, but I knew they had to be released in order to free myself of them, but also to share my story, because there are so many people who've experienced similar stories. And it's a gift to share your story, and it's a gift for someone to hear your story and relate to it. So I feel like a lot of the stories I try to tell are pieces that are extremely vulnerable. Honestly, as a writer, it's your greatest strength to share your most vulnerable stories, strength and gift to other people. So I would suggest and recommend and beg other writers of any kind, or just any other creator, to allow yourself to be vulnerable. It takes practice.
That's what we're talking about.
You got this.
We know who you are.
You're out there.
Y'all all writing out there, and some of you aren't, and you're going through some shit. Take an emotional shit and turn it into art. Like, that's, you will feel just like
Cleansed.
everybody. We're all humans. We're all humans here. We've all taken that one where you feel 10 pounds lighter. Like, sometimes when you write that piece, it feels the same exact way.
This is wisdom here. This is facts. This is facts.
We only speak truth on the Kill the Poet podcast, okay? That's all we do. That's all we know how to do. We don't know how to do anything else.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
There you go.
All right, that's cool. Okay, so when did you actually like start writing, and what made you feel comfortable with like actually sharing what you wrote?
So I would say I began writing young. I have a piece that's from 1995, which I unearthed, and I was like, wow, this is actually like go 10-year-old me, you know, like this is solid. And I found another piece that I wrote my freshman year of high school, A+ on this assignment. But I also read it and I was like, you know what, this is worthy. This is a piece of history, my history, and it's valid. It's also speaks to a lot of experiences that other people are going through. So I started writing. I also come from writers. Like my dad is a poet, even though which he.
Shit, that helps.
But I say that. However, he never shared his work with anyone. Like I had to like pull it out of him. You know, I was like, Dad. So I really began writing. I guess the clearest way to say this was after to say it was a bad breakup is putting it lightly. It was an incredibly dangerous situation that I got myself out of, and writing was a way for me to process. And someone else, I found myself just, all my friends all of a sudden were writers. I was just looking around and they're like, yeah, it's because you're one too. And I was like, oh, I guess so. And,
were those friends like sharing and performing those?
They
those
were,
pieces?
and I was sitting in the audience, like with my notebook underneath my chair, just observing.
When was this?
I would say it was about five or 6 years ago.
Okay.
But I didn't want to share anything with anybody. I wasn't prepared. So, but one of my friends had heard some of my work. We had just like written together, and they said, you're ready. You should sign up for this program. So that's how I found out about the Community Literature Initiative, and I enrolled in their program, and that is when I started working on a manuscript. Totally unprepared, like not even like I wasn't even calling myself a poet. I had imposter syndrome like crazy. So that was when I really started studying writing and studying poetry again. Like I feel like we take courses like throughout school. You know, maybe some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. But it's really not about the academic aspect of it, even though it does help. Like if you have tools in your tool belt, like that, it's important to develop those skills because you can only improve you as a writer and a poet.
Exactly.
So, but at the core of it, whether you have those tools or not, if you have something to say, you're a writer, and what you have to say is worth sharing. So that's just facts. And so my journey journey started there, and now I'm about to publish a book.
That's wow. Dang. So You're about to publish a book. We're actually going to get into that after a quick break.
Wonderful.
Before our quick break, can we get the name of the book?
Yes, the book is called Honey and Gravel.
Honey and Gravel. Okay, very nice. Hey, we'll be right back after this quick poem.
My name is Lolo Wink, and this is Art Imitating Life. Oh, say, can you see? The colors on the flag don't mean what they're supposed to mean. Hands over our heart change to hands over our eyes because we're blind to see that those colors ain't what we was told they mean. Born of the waistbands of a dozen pair of worn-out Levi's, clinging like the working class, waiting for tomorrow's paycheck to hit their bank account. A rough frame, measured twice and cut once, provides a foundation. 8 stripes ribbon from left to right, crossing the denim canvas like train tracks. Red striations that once spoke of valor now drip in a shade of cowardice, stained with the blood of the many lives stolen in the name of power, fear, hate, and often freedom. Oh, say, can you see? The color on the flag don't mean what they're supposed to mean. Hands over our heart change to hands over our eyes because we're blind to see that those colors ain't what we was told they mean. Bone-colored bands that once symbolized the essence of innocence and purity now muddied. The upper left quadrant is colored in a shade of vigilance that lacks equity. Traditionally ornamented in stars, now displays a spray paint splatter of stenciled statistics. Hatchet marks gape through the stats and stripes like the loopholes in our democracy. Outlines fading like chalk lines of the lost lives as numerous as the stars at night. Edges lit afire like the hearts of our nation's citizens, roaring for long delayed change. Oh, say, can you see? The colors on the flag don't mean what they're supposed to mean. Hand over our hearts change to hands over our eyes because we're blind to see that those colors ain't what we was told they mean.
Let's go.
And we're back with our friend Lolo Wink. We just heard her poem, Art Imitating Life.
Sir.
I know that, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, it's... What kind of poem?
It's called an ekphrastic poem.
Jeez.
Ekphrastic. I think it's like
Ekphrastic.
EKPH.
And what is that? What does that mean?
So it's when you comment on art. This particular piece, it was just you draw an interpretation from it. So I had this piece of art, and I'm bringing a different kind of art to it.
Oh, interesting. So this piece, it's in your book, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It will be in my book.
What's the? Go ahead and show the folks. Show the people.
Sure. The book is called Honey and Gravel. You guys are getting a little sneak peek of the cover here. Sneak peek. And even though this is in black and white, this is the piece of art that is commented on. It's by an artist named Fluent out of Venice, California.
Nice.
And it's just a beautiful piece of artwork that I chose to write a little piece on.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, as the people saw, it's based off of like the American flag type things. So you were trying to do a like what essentially like a social commentary on like what the meanings of the flag is, right?
Right. So it started out more as trying to write about this piece of art and like drawing. It's a very unique piece, and up close, it's actually made out of Levi's denim. It's burned and singed on the edges. It's got hatchet marks through it. There's spray painted numbers, and it's very. So I wanted to comment on all the beautiful aspects of this piece, but then like I was writing this during a very tumultuous. I mean, just right now, the times we live on are are incredibly tumultuous, and so I wanted to channel some of those feelings into this piece, and so it ended up just being a piece that is also kind of socially commenting on the times we're in, and it worked out very well. I might say that the views of myself are not necessarily the views of the artist that created the painting, but shouts out to the artist Fluent at Venice, and thank you for allowing me to use that piece to create this piece.
At what point did you feel like you had to do it?
Oh man.
Like what was the moment that compelled you to like make it happen?
I would say I was in New York during it was lockdown, but it was also the time of protest. And so many people were leaving their houses every single day to go protest out in the streets. And I remember coming home and staring at that flag and feeling strange in the sense that like I've never really had this is an interesting subject. A sense of pride in the flag for myself. It's difficult because it represents so many things, and how can you have? It's difficult to have pride when there's so many horrible things that are occurring and so much inequity in our world right now. And so I had to find a way to comment on that, and I felt like it was a beautiful piece to help channel those feelings.
It's really I remember I used to once upon a time I used to work in sales, and the thing I was selling I didn't really believe in, so it made it really hard to actually like effectively sell those things. So it's like, you know, if you're growing up in America, there's so many things, so many ideals that are kind of downloaded into your subconscious that, like, especially as time goes on, you learn more. It's like, dang, like, it's not really we, it's more like a y'all type thing, you know, where we might go to war. It's like, nah, like, y'all might go to war. I'm just here, you know, because I don't, you know, you look at the flag, you think of all the things, it's like, and then you just look out your window or look at your TV. Yes. And you're just like, is this it? Like, is this what I'm subscribed to? I don't know, you know? And it's like, yeah, no, I definitely feel that.
Part of that hand over your heart kind of reminds me of the fact that as children we're asked to pledge allegiance. Yeah. And as a child, like, you don't know what you're doing, even though, like, that's part of... I didn't
know what allegiance meant.
Exactly. Most kids can't even spell allegiance. Like, but it's part of it, you know, and also there's there's just so many connotations. So I feel like there's so many layers to this piece based on the representation of the flag. One thing that I do want to point out is I actually used the original meaning behind the colors of the flag. And so if you look at, like, blue being is supposed to represent vigilance, which is so, and then the red and the white. But it's like they're supposed to mean these things, but right now they mean blood, they mean inequity, they mean loss of life, you know, they mean tragedy, you know, they mean it was a hard piece to fully like concrete, and I was almost apprehensive to share it, but it's one of those things that you have to push through as an artist because it's important that these words are shared.
Especially,
I remember, go ahead.
In a part of your poem you said, like, hands off your hearts, and they have their hands over their eyes. My question to you is, like, at what point did you feel like this was, you know, like the shit that you're talking about in this poem, when did it become, like, real to you at any point, and when did you feel like you had to write about it, essentially?
I feel like there's been... I had to look at myself as a human and as a white woman and ask myself, what am I turning a blind eye to? What am I allowing to happen in my life? But also, like, what fears do I have for, like, my friends and my nieces and nephews, like, people in my life, like, they are in danger. And that cannot be ignored. I cannot turn my eyes away from those facts that they may not come home. And it just gives me chills and is frightening to comprehend. And so it's some of those emotions that I'm trying to voice here. I would say that during the pandemic and during lockdown and during the protests, like a lot of tension and with good reason was occurring, and a lot of people chose to not participate or to deny what was going on, and that I wasn't about to do that. And I feel like many people, both in Long Beach but also across the world, agreed. And the fact of the matter is, like, we have to continue to not be blind to what's occurring, because it's not ending.
It's really interesting because it's like the part of the Wizard of Oz, where they get to the end of the whole thing and then they see the wizard behind the whole thing, and it's like, oh,
The man behind the curtain.
yeah, it's like, oh, it's just this. Got it. And I feel like that's kind of like it's like the place in our timeline that we're at. We like just saw the guy behind the curtain, and more people are seeing the guy behind the curtain.
I agree.
You know, so it's like, you know, all these ideals that were held up by, you know, some colors on a flag. It's like this is like smoke and mirrors. You know, this is just like illusion shit. You know, sorry, Mom. But yeah, it's just that's all it is. And especially at that point, like, you know, when people were boarding up their businesses because they're like, damn, people are outside, peak pandemic. It's like, especially now post all of that, it's like, and with everything going on, it's like, man, this is what my history teacher was talking about. But now it's just outside now.
It's happening in real time.
Yeah, it's happening in real
I
time.
think it's also like the messages that we've been fed, and like what's been in the textbooks that we're learning that don't actually represent real history.
Yeah.
It represents white history.
Yeah.
And we need to ask questions. We need to challenge, and we need to make sure that all actual real history is being shared. And I feel like the colors don't mean what we were told they mean. Like, we're fed this one message, but how often are we told to challenge the narrative and to check our sources? Like, where are we receiving information from? And it's super important that even as poets, like, that we remember to remain open and to not allow ourselves to be fooled, but also to know where our messages are coming from, and to display. I don't know, like, I don't want to limit poets either. Everyone has a message to share.
I feel like the powerful thing about writing in general, not just like, because I feel like all sorts of creative writing can be like poetry, but like it becomes easier to relate with the world around you when you're able to look within yourself and relate with yourself, you know? So I think that, like, especially with like poets writing whatever, you know, there's a lot of power in that, because there's a lot of people that don't do that, you know, that you know, they're 45, 60, 70 years old, never once have been able to really look inwards and relate with themselves.
Have you ever had that be a part of your journey, where you couldn't find the means to like be completely authentic, or do you think that you've always been completely authentic when you share your art?
I feel that when I first began my journey as a writer, I didn't know what my authentic self looked like. And so over time, I've kind of learned to listen. And here's like a really good way, a good indicator. When you're scared, it's a good thing. When you're afraid to share, it means that something important needs to be said. I feel like if you're frightened, when you are afraid to say something is when you need to say it most.
Usually when I'm scared to say something, I feel like it's just shitty.
I mean, you'll be the best judge of that.
No, I know,
But at the same time, like sometimes though it may be controversial, it's still important, you know.
There's definitely like pieces that like I'm like.
Oh, I can't wait to share some of these pieces with you guys.
Yo.
I get into fuckboys, I get into side chicks, I get into STDs. All the dirt.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And there's a lot. No, and there's a lot of power in like being able to go there in front of other people. You know, there's like you're like on your way to becoming invincible. You know, like if you're able to like you can't even go there. Like you're pointing to someone in the crowd, you know.
I challenge you.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
there for yourself, you know?
Look at this shit. This is something that you would have never ever looked at or thought about. Here am I on the stage doing it, and it was fire. You might be dealing with it too, but I'm able to actually come out here and talk. I'm saying it, you know? This man, Kanye, mad open about his porn addiction. Sorry, Mom, one more time. But it's also facts. You know, he's out here like, in the Genius documentary, he's over here like, I got a little addiction. Sorry, Cootie. But who was out here saying that? Who would ever say that? Of course, like that's zooming forward to today. Like this man is going through some things, but like there's a lot of power in being able to be vulnerable in front of people and being fine. You know.
You open the door for other people to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You said exactly. Like it's okay to be vulnerable, and sometimes the scandal of it. It makes it much more powerful. You know, you get eyes, and I'm not saying like use it in that way, but you know, it's a power.
It's
Talk
what it is.
Talk about real quick, and before we close out, talk about what fuels you. What fuels you to continue going in your craft?
What fuels me is setting an example for other people who feel like they can't use their voices and feel like they've lost their power, who can't step into their power. They're feeling resistance. To me, resistance is the biggest energy. Why don't we do the things that we want to do, that we love to do? Resistance is like usually the cause. And so my goal as a poet is to encourage people whose voices have been dormant to use their voices, but also to tell their stories, because our stories are important and valid, and also other people need to hear our stories because they need to be empowered as well. They need to be seen. And you may have a story that someone needs to hear. And if that story remains untold, then like there are consequences. So
yeah, shoot, yeah, there are consequences. You know, dang, that's kind of
that's why I call it motherfucking bars.
Yeah, no, that's something to think about. Like, listen, there are consequences. There are consequences for you not sharing your story, even if it's scary. It might make life a little less scary for someone else. And, you know, it's like, it's hard to go through that dark tunnel. But, but the important part is, like, I think there's I don't remember if it was Chris Rock or something like that, but no, it was Steve Harvey. There's a Steve Harvey quote, and it's like, if you're going through hell, why would you stop in the middle of it?
Damn.
facts.
You know, just keep going.
Damn.
Anyway,
Shout out to Steve Harvey.
that's another episode of the Kill the Poet podcast. I'm Young Toledo. You could find me at Young Toledo _ or at Kill the Poet _. We got Lolo. Tell them what you got going on, Lolo.
So Honey and Gravel is coming out December 2022, December 10th. So please check me out. And I'm also on Instagram at Lolo_Wink. Please check me out, and I would love to hear from you.
Yep, Young Kolokai, IAKOLOK, everywhere. You know what it is.
None of the killer pop.
Hello,